Welcome to the Gaming Coffee Club, episode number 19. Can you believe it? We're at number 19 already, approaching that big 2-0, which is very awesome. So thank you all for being around for the journey. Make sure you also check out our Gaming Coffee Club YouTube channel, which has all the best clips from all the podcasts and some extras in case you're short on time and don't have time to listen to a podcast. I'll leave that link down below. But this week, what do we have in store for you? We've got lots of news. We've got just Resident Evil Pandemonium after the success of Requiem. We've got a whole bunch of news about Sony stepping back from, multi-platform releases. We touched on this last week, but we have some more, which is really interesting. We've got a first look at Forza Horizon 6 gameplay, a game I cannot wait to play, but the gameplay made me go, interesting. We've got some news about PS6 launch timelines. We've got Xbox's new PS6 competitor has been revealed by Xbox, and just, some other exciting news like a big game heading to PlayStation 5 very soon at a reduced price, which is good to see for a big AAA game. So without further ado, grab your Gaming Coffee Club mug. Links down below in the merch shelf and at purepsx.com for you to pick one up for yourself. Get your favourite brew on the go and try not to spill this. And let's chill out and get into the news stories with the first batch of quick news stories, which we will get onto right now. So the first bit of quick news is Resident Evil Requiem is just setting the whole place alight with Resident Evil fever. In particular, here in the UK, it is absolutely causing wild success and making a bit of a knock-on domino effect where all the other Resident Evil games are also seeing a bit of a resurgence. So what is really interesting here is with the release of Resident Evil Requiem, it is now pulling, I think, how many is that? 1, 2... 3, 4, 5 Resident Evil games forward up into the top 10 best sellers list for this week, which is just absolutely wild. So I'll put the UK software chart up on screen, but we've got Resident Evil Requiem at number 1. It is just dominating. It is actually so hard to get your hands on a physical copy of this game right now. Let me know if you picked the game up and if you picked it up physically, which you should because that is the proper, correct way. Own your games, people. Or if you picked it up digitally, maybe you're playing just on the portal, for example. And then at number, well, you could go through them all here. We've got Pokemon Pokopia, which I think looks terrible. I saw a trailer of that. Mario Kart World is still in at number 3 somehow, which is just wild. Pokemon Legends ZA, Pokemon, another huge franchise here, but Resident Evil going toe-to-toe with them. We've got Resident Evil 7 Biohazard Gold Edition coming in at 5. Monster Hunter Wilds at number 6, which is another Capcom game. Capcom is making bank right now, people. Then Resident Evil 3 at number 7. I really like Resident Evil 3. Jill Valentine, absolute badass, great game. Really short. A lot of people didn't like it because a lot of stuff was kind of cut out of it, versus the original game. And it probably was I don't know, it felt like it was maybe originally going to be a DLC to Resident Evil 2. But because of that, it's a shorter game. I like it, so you can blast through it in a weekend or a couple of days. Definitely check it out. More kind of action orientated than, straight up horror. Then we've got Animal Crossing New Horizons at number 8. Resident Evil 2 is at number 9. I've not played the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's meant to be just probably one of the best Resident Evil games ever. And I loved the original Resident Evil 2. That was my favourite game of all time. Well, one of them. And then Resident Evil Generation Pack, which includes 3 of the games, which is a Switch 2 compilation, funnily enough. And it's got a whole bunch of them. It's in number 10. So that's absolutely wild how well Resident Evil is doing because of Requiem getting that spotlight back on these games, which people maybe missed first time round. They enjoyed Requiem and they thought, let's go and check it out. So have you been playing Requiem, and has it made you want to go back and revisit any of the other games? So we spoke about last week that it had been leaked or revealed or reported on that Sony was stepping back from PC ports of their games, in particular the first party AAA story type games, and it looks like live service games will continue to go onto other services, in particular PC. I'm not sure what it means for Xbox, but given Xbox, the next one, which we'll talk about later on in the show, is going to be a PC, basically a pre-built PC, it makes sense. They want to get the biggest player base for these live service games, which is what live service games are all about. If there's no players playing them, ain't nobody going to play your game. So they're taking back ownership and control of all the single player franchises, and that is going to be a big part of the value proposition for you wanting to buy a PlayStation. Obvious, it makes sense. That's what Nintendo have been doing for years. That's what Sony used to do. They tried the experiment with bringing their games to PC. It doesn't seem to have worked out. But two of the games which were in development, so we had planned versions of Saros and Ghost of Yotai, have been scrapped. So that's two games. Well, one is already available on PS5 right now, which is Ghost of Yotai, and Saros is, on the way. But both of them have now been pulled, and this is according to Bloomberg, who are reporting that these first-party ports have all been pulled within the last few weeks. So this is a relatively recent change. We don't know why they've done this, even though we have speculated. And it just makes more sense. I think you've got a lot of these competitors moving into the PC space. You've got PC gaming in general, which is just getting more expensive though, unfortunately, due to this crazy AI boom. You've then got the Steam machine, which when it comes out is going to be like a console type competitor because it should or can live in your living room, for example. And then we've got the new Xbox coming along as well, which is like a pre-built PC. So having this situation where your PlayStation exclusives can be bought on Steam and then played on the Steam machine and on this new Xbox console, Sony's probably thought, no, I don't think so. We're pulling back from PC. And it makes sense to me. But disappointing if you were looking forward to these games. So it means if you want to play Saros, Ghost of Yotai, or any of the other upcoming single-player games we know about, like Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, or Marvel's Wolverine, you are going to need to have a PlayStation 5 to do that. What do you think about this, people? I think this makes sense. This is what competition's all about. Brings out the best in everyone. So I hope this does happen. I hope Sony, I would say maybe deliver even more better games, move away from this live service fascination they've had in recent times, get back to the roots. There's so many other franchises they have which they could revive, which don't need to be big, huge AAA games. I actually think I might do a dedicated video on some of the forgotten or lost franchises which PlayStation has in their back pocket, which I think a lot of us would be happy to see return. Sound off if there's any which jump out to you, which you'd like to see. For me, there's some just right off the top of my head, like your Wipeouts, your Twisted Metal. I know they're both kind of racing games and stuff like that. Motorstorm, another one. Like these games surely would be able to be developed a lot quicker and a lot cheaper than, like a God of War, for example. Get them out in between these games. But yeah, we will see what happens in the future, but it's looking like Sony is very much done with PC, and that's not all, which we'll talk about in our next quick news story. So you all might remember when LEGO Horizons was announced, and everyone was a bit puzzled because it was announced for PlayStation 5 and PC and Nintendo Switch day and date. So on launch day, it was going to be on all those systems. So that raised a few eyebrows. Everyone was like, whoa, is PlayStation, taking a leaf out of the Xbox playbook here and just launching all their games on as many platforms as possible? Well, we've now got a little bit of insight on this, and over on The Gamer, they are reporting that reputable leaker Kiwi Talks Riley, or Reese Kiwi Talks Riley, sorry, who's made a bit of a name for himself, interviewing a lot of developers over the years, has said it wasn't Sony's choice to put the game on Nintendo Switch. The plot thickens. LEGO Horizon only released on Switch because it was mandated by the LEGO Group. So there we go. It was LEGO that made Sony put this game on Nintendo Switch. He also then responded to another user just explaining, that he knows this info for fact. And it's also due to Sony viewing Nintendo as direct competition. So that sounds like we are not going to see any more PlayStation games appear on the Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch 2, as it seems like Lego was behind this move and forced them to do this. So it will be interesting to see how Sony handles this sort of situation going forward, because they're definitely stepping back from multi-platform releases, which I think is a good move to protect the value proposition of the PlayStation. Apart from clearly these special cases, like this one was mandated by Lego Group, so it's the rights holders are telling them what to do. And then we've also got MLB The Show, which is mandated by the rights holders of Major League Baseball, that they need to launch on all platforms. So it really does seem like Sony is starting to lock down and just go back to the way, I guess, PlayStation of old was. It's kind of exciting as well, because for the first time in a long time, we're going to potentially have three. So just think of the three main systems. If Xbox gets this PC thing they're building out the door, and then we get a PlayStation 6, and then we've got the Switch 2, three very different bits of hardware, and they all might have very different libraries only available on those platforms. That to me is exciting. I used to love when all the hardware was different. You had like your GameCube, your PS2, PS3, whatever, your Sega Dreamcast, your Xbox, everything was different. It gave the consoles character, and the games were different. They ran differently. I really like that. I think that's exciting, instead of kind of like what we've had the last generation or so, or two probably. It's very vanilla. Like, there's not a lot in it. The machines are basically the same. Look at the Xbox Series X, the PS5, like power-wise and everything they can do, they're pretty much the same. So this is exciting, but let me know what your thoughts are on all of this. Or are you a big Switch fan and you're gutted that you're not going to get maybe another PlayStation game on Switch? Okay, we got our first look at Forza Horizon 6. So this is the one which is going to be set in Japan. I'm really excited for this game based on the previous entries in this franchise. They are spectacular games. If you've never played them, I highly encourage you to do so. Forza Horizon 5 is currently available on PC, Xbox, and on PlayStation 5. Go check it out. It is a phenomenal game. It's genuinely one of the best arcade racing franchises out there, and it's probably, if I'm being brutally honest, the only game which Xbox over the past couple of years has consistently delivered a top tier experience on. A game which is polished, it's finished, it has tons of stuff to do in it. It is just well worth the money versus a lot of other stuff they've launched. But this one is coming to Xbox. Obviously, it's going to Game Pass day one, and it is coming to PlayStation 5 at a later date. They've not announced that date, but I imagine it would probably launch round about the holiday season or something like that, just to maximize their sales, at the tail end of the year. And we got our first look at actual just raw gameplay footage, 9 minutes over on IGN. And I was like, yes, I cannot wait to check this out. And I don't think they did themselves any favors. They put up the most boring, vanilla footage ever. Like, nothing exciting happens. They should have shown us some of the maybe exciting races or exciting challenges, or I don't know, something like that. But we didn't get that. We just got, if this is an IGN journalist who's playing this, I don't know, maybe it is. They're literally just driving about the freeways, doing nothing else. There's a part also in the video where they go into a tunnel and they don't even go full send down the tunnel. Let that engine scream. Also, the car, they're using this saline. Bizarre. Why would you pick this for all of the cars you could possibly pick for Forza Horizon 6 set in Japan? Surely there'd be a cooler, more appropriate Japanese, tuned up street racing car they could use. I thought would have been cooler. It's kind of bizarre. Also, one thing that really jumped out to me, the footage, if you're watching this just now on YouTube or on Spotify, he's coming up to the tunnel just now, and yeah, hit the brakes on. What? Go, like, full send it. Why is that rev counter not screaming? I don't understand it. You know, that's standard. That's what you need to do, or you just should never play a racing game. Anyways, the other thing which jumped out to me, you can see he's racing by a little bit of traffic here, and the key word and key focus is a little bit. It's like Japan is a ghost town here. Like, there's literally hardly any traffic on the roads at all. I had seen some speculation that the traffic density had been nerfed and pulled back for this showcase, if you want to call it that. I hope that is the case, because if this launches and there's hardly any cars on the road, it takes away from the experience. But that was it. I guess it's a tour of, some of the Japanese map they've built here, some of its roads and bridges and tunnels and all that kind of stuff. However, I'm very excited for this because the previous games are so freaking good. I have played Forza Horizon 3. That was my first one, which I got on the Xbox One S. That was the game, the exclusive, which made me part with my hard-earned cash and go and buy an Xbox One console. So I got the white Xbox One S, and it came bundled with this. Forza Horizon 3, set in Australia. Phenomenal game. Forza Horizon 4, set in the UK. You can drive about my home country, Scotland. You can drive around Edinburgh. It is amazing. Check it out. I think it's been delisted, but you can buy it digitally. You can find some codes. That's if you're on Xbox or PC, obviously. That wasn't launched on PlayStation. And then we've got Forza Horizon 5, set in North America. And it's fantastic. You're cruising around Mexico and stuff like that. It is just a good time. It's available on all platforms. Go check it out. I can't wait for this one. I've never been more excited for a Forza Horizon game because of the location here, and they're just phenomenal games. I will be keeping my tabs on this and bringing you more news when we get more footage and see more stuff, because to me, this actually screams out that the purpose is just to show off their kind of compressed Japan map, because they can't obviously map the whole of Japan. So they do this cool thing in Forza Horizon where they give you a kind of condensed version of the country, and it has, the different biomes and different elements all kind of squashed in together, so you can easily just drive around them all. So this looks cool. I am excited. I just want to see more high octane arcade racing. You can just cruise around and chill in Forza Horizon, but that's not my most fun thing to do. I like all the races and stuff like that, buying houses all over the place. So yeah, who's excited for Forza Horizon 6 on their Xbox and on their PS5? This game is going to look spectacular on PS5 Pro. Okay, Xbox have been at it again on Twitter with their new CEO this time, who posted, "Great start to the morning with Team Xbox, where we talked about our commitment to the return of Xbox, including Project Helix, the code name for our next generation console. Project Helix will lead in performance and play your Xbox and PC games. Looking forward to chatting about it." And then the official Xbox account also published a tweet, "The next generation of Xbox console, Project Helix," with a kind of code name logo here. I hope that is not the new Xbox logo. It looks terrible. That's just my opinion, obviously. But Project Helix. So we have got our confirmation, I guess you could say, that there's going to be a new Xbox. And this is going to, I guess, be or planned to be the competition for the PS6. I don't think it will actually give much competition, which we'll talk about in a moment as to why. And it's looking like Microsoft is planning to launch its next main console next year in 2027. And this is interesting because we spoke on previous episodes of the podcast about speculation that Sony might be pushing the PlayStation 6 launch date back to like 2028, 2029, or even 2030. And a lot of you who responded to comments on that video, that podcast, were happy about this, saying, yeah, I don't see there's any need for a new PlayStation console right now. A lot of you were saying, though, you would be keen to get your hands on a dedicated PlayStation 5 handheld console. This rumoured, I guess it's the PS6 handheld we keep hearing about. So that makes sense, and I think that could maybe come in interim to bridge the gap. However, the new Xbox is going to supposedly support multiple storefronts, which I guess lines up with what the new CEO, Asha Sharma, has just said, given it's a PC game, so you'll be able to play Steam and your Epic games, all your free Epic games on there. I would imagine as well that would mean they would need to drop their charge for online multiplayer. I wonder how they're going to approach that. I guess their desire is everyone being signed up to Xbox Game Pass anyways because of all the games on it, and that I guess kind of will subsidize some of their costs, because ain't nobody on PC going to want to pay to play online. Very interesting. And then, for the PS6, it's heavily rumoured it's going to be launching the console, which we mentioned, and then the handheld, which I'm really excited about, alongside it. And we know they're working on this with this new power saver mode, which has been rolled out to PlayStation, because that is the target for developers for getting games running on this new handheld. Well, PS5 games, that is. What do we think about that? Basically a pre-built gaming PC with an Xbox badge on it, kind of like what they did with the ROG Asus ROG Xbox Ally X. They have the worst marketing team in the planet over there, the worst names. Hopefully they come up with something cooler for this thing. Even just call it Xbox Helix. Just don't call it Xbox One Series X plus 9 or whatever they do. Their names are so bad. But this is where it gets interesting. If it is, like I say, pre-built gaming PC, it's not going to be cheap, because if they're not charging for online multiplayer, and they also have, open storefronts where you can download and buy games from other stores other than the Microsoft Xbox store, which helps them subsidize costs for hardware. They will not be subsidizing the cost for this hardware. If you can buy games on Steam, they won't get a penny of it. If you buy games from Epic Games, they won't get a penny of that either. So this is going to be expensive, because they need to build their profit into the hardware. So when you buy it, they get a little bit of profit. And we have more news on that. And we've got some leaks here from Moore's Law is Dead, who's been on the ball with a lot of these kind of leaks. And he's totaled up a lot of the components which have been rumoured to go into this new Xbox Project Helix. And the components, this is not with any profit margin added on, could total anything between $900 to $1,500. Whoa. So he also mentions that, Sony is going for a kind of PS4 type approach, as it designs its PlayStation 6 console, whereas Microsoft is building a bridge out of the console market. So they'll probably charge $1,000 or more for this thing. And also the current prices of, RAM and GPUs are still going up, so it might be even more expensive, which is just wild to think about. The new graphics card, which Microsoft are planning to use, is kind of the successor to AMD's 9070 XT, and this graphics card could be priced between $550 and $650 on its own. That's what you'd be expecting to pay for a console, a full console. That's just the price of the GPU going into this new Xbox gaming PC. Wow. So that's according to Moore's Law is Dead. And this will demand more RAM, making it even more expensive. He believes that Microsoft probably could achieve a $900 price point if the next Xbox machine was manufactured on a large scale. He also thinks the company will want to make a profit on it. Well, obviously, because that's why they're in business. They want to make money. And he went on to say, so I will think that I expect at least $1,000. If they wanted to be crazy aggressive, I could see $900. And most likely I could see $1,200, but I don't think more than $1,500. Would you honestly want to pay $1,500 for an Xbox? Whoa. I wouldn't. That's a hard pass for me. it's a hard pass for me anyway. I don't want a gaming PC. I've already got a gaming PC. You know, I don't want a pre-built gaming PC from Microsoft. That just sounds like just the pits to me. Like, no thanks. You know, so we've got the PS6. It's also expected to be pretty expensive. But despite, you know, a lot of these higher price points over possibly the current PS5, maybe similar prices to PS5 Pro and the Xbox Series X, Moore's Law is Dead believes a lot of people will still just get the PlayStation. Most people will, I think. I agree. I think the PlayStation 6 will absolutely obliterate this Xbox Project Helix. I think this new Xbox sounds like such a niche device. I cannot believe they're going in this route. Console gamers do not want this because they don't want a really expensive bit of kit. Console gaming is meant to be more affordable and more accessible. And PC gamers don't want it because they want their custom rig that they can swap parts in and out and do whatever they want with. And they aren't fans of microslop either. Nobody really is a fan of microslop these days. So having one that's branded by them, they'll be out. PC gamers, if they're going to buy any kind of pre-built PC games console, will buy the Steam machine. They all love Steam. Steam's very consumer friendly and, you know, gets a great write-up. It's very well loved in the gaming community, unlike Microsoft. So I honestly think that the new Xbox Project Helix, so let's quote us on this. I think the new Xbox Project Helix will be the worst selling Xbox of all time and potentially one of the worst selling consoles of all time. I think this just appeals to nobody, as I've mentioned, for the reasons why. What do you think about this? 2027 to launch a $1,500 Xbox? Oh. There's also, I guess, a bit of speculation about the PS6 going to launch in the same year, but we spoke that might be getting pushed back, you know, maybe 2028, 2029. But Moore's Law is Dead has claimed that he doesn't think Sony are going to delay the PS6, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So, would you pay $1,200 for an Xbox? Sound off in the comments. The PlayStation 6 release date has been in the news again, with Moore's Law is Dead talking about this, as well as talking about the new Xbox, which is supposedly on the way in 2027. And what did he say? Well, in his most recent YouTube video, he has reiterated that he believes the PlayStation 6 will launch in late 2027. So next year, about a year and a half away, which is completely the opposite of what we spoke about a couple of weeks ago on the show, where it's looking like the PlayStation 6 has been delayed by Sony out to 2028, 2029, even maybe 2030. And a lot of you were happy about this. You all said, this sounds cool. I don't think we need a new console right now. Just keep optimizing for the PlayStation 5 console. Although a lot of you did say you were excited about the potential of the PlayStation 6 handheld. Wow. So the speculation suggested that potentially 2028 or way beyond, especially because of these rising RAM prices and storage prices going up and GPU prices going up, which is just wild because of this crazy AI boom. The sooner that bubble pops, I think the better. We can all get back to business here. But Moore's Law is Dead, who claims to have seen various manufacturing documents, believes it would cost the company more to pull out of its contracts with manufacturers like TSMC. And if you don't know who they are, they actually fabricate the microchips. So it might be really expensive for Sony to change direction and pull out of that versus just going for it and maybe launching a slightly more expensive PlayStation 6 console. So he has mentioned in the past he has seen evidence of the PS6 being readied for manufacturing in 2027. That's Q2 2027. And he reiterated that again in his most recent video. He does mention a delay to early 2028 could be possible, as that would allow them to build up inventory and still honour existing contracts, but he does not believe it will launch any later than that. So it's looking like the last quarter of 2027 up to the end of maybe the first quarter 2028. So you've got that 6-month window. That'll be here before we know it. That really is not much of a delay at all if it happens. He also goes on to say that the console, in comparison to this new Xbox Project Helix, which we spoke about earlier in the show, will be significantly cheaper than Microsoft's machine, but it will be slightly less powerful. I think in this day and age, that is a winning approach. So if you have a PS6 and it's slightly, less graphically powerful for, I don't know, say it's $700, right? Same price as the PS5 Pro. And then you've got a Xbox console at like $1,500, over double the price almost. Which one are you going to pick? That might not even factor into it. Like, PlayStation is just so dominant right now. There's a lot of reasons also not to buy Xbox because, no exclusives. I think Xbox, Microsoft have just been a mess with how they've handled the current generation of Xbox console. I don't see it improving. I actually see them starting to exit hardware fully as they have, kind of laid down a bit of a groundwork and a framework with what they've done with Asus, with the Asus ROG Xbox Ally X handheld. I see them doing that with their actual console hardware next, stepping back and then letting third-party developers actually make it, and they'll just do the software. So I think that's what's going to happen because Microsoft just don't seem interested in the whole hardware side of things these days. Moore's Law is Dead did go on to say that the PlayStation 6, even though it will be less powerful, still will have enough power for 4K 120 FPS gaming. And he also mentions that PSSR 3, we've just seen the big uplift with PSSR 2 on Resident Evil Requiem, for example. The third iteration of this will dramatically improve ray tracing, and it will be more than enough for everyone's gaming needs. Wowzers. So while the new Xbox is expected to be a bit more powerful and have, a little bit better visuals and a bit better graphics, I still don't think that's enough of a differentiator. Think about the launch of the Series X. It is actually more powerful than the base PS5, but it's not all about teraflops these days. It's about the actual games and the experience. That's where Xbox has been lacking. A lot of their first-party games over the past couple of years have just been rubbish. They've not been well-polished, crafted, finished experiences, and then they wonder why people don't want to buy the stuff. They then release, Game Pass, and they condition a large amount of their users not to buy games because everyone just says, well, why should I buy it? I'll just wait for it in Game Pass. They just shoot themselves in the foot time after time, which is unfortunate because this is not a bash Xbox story here. This is a warning. We need good competition to keep Sony on their toes so then we get the best out of Sony. Like, this console war mentality of, yes, we've crushed them, they're dead. That's just stupid. We need competition. So if Xbox is out, maybe Sega will come back or something. I don't know. Or somebody else. Maybe Apple. Imagine Apple releasing a console. I could actually maybe see that in the future, to be honest. Anyways, maybe they'll do that with our new Apple TV. But that is not the here and now. What we're talking about is the new PlayStation 6 release date and this new Xbox. We're expecting the Xbox to be like $1,000 to $1,500, which is just a lot of money. And with third-party storefronts on it, it's going to really limit their ability to sell the system at a loss and then reclaim the money through software sales because they won't get any if people buy their games from third-party storefronts. So that's a very interesting world that we're entering here. Obviously, all of this is, rumours just now. None of this is actually confirmed. However, when we spoke about the PS6 being delayed in previous episodes, everyone was quite, happy with that and agreed with it. So if it gets pulled back in or it hasn't been delayed at all, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all pans out. Does Xbox releasing a console in 2027 force Sony's hand? Would Sony then accelerate things to get their PS6 out there quicker? Or do you think they're in such a dominant position they don't really care? They'll just, stick to their plan and proceed with whatever their plan is right now. But we will be reporting on whatever we hear from them, because this is really interesting. As I said earlier on, the fact we might have three of the main, big console players all having really quite different hardware for the first time in forever is so cool. A Switch 2, very different from a PS6, very different from this Xbox Project Helix. That's exciting to me. That's what gaming's all about. I don't want everything just to be vanilla and be the same. So let's see how this all pans out. A PS6 in 2027, early 2028, 4K, 120 frames per second. Are you in, or are you not too fussed? And I have a big apology to you all. I forgot to post the Gaming Coffee Club question of the week. I know, my bad. I had a really busy week, so I completely forgot. However, once this episode goes live, I will then post the Gaming Coffee Club question of the week, so you can all get involved. You can leave your comments and be part of the podcast, because that's a big thing this is all about. I want you all to be involved in the podcast. I'll post that right after this for next week's show, so I don't forget. I'll post it on the community posts feed on the Pure PSX YouTube channel, and for the first time ever, I'll also post it on the Gaming Coffee Club YouTube channel's posts community tab. YouTube keep changing the name of it. I don't know why they do that. I'll post it there too, so you can all get involved, and I'll go over them all here, and we can have a good chat about that in next week's episode over a nice brew. Another big Xbox game, previous Xbox and PC exclusive, is heading to PlayStation. We've got this news from Deal Labs, who are usually spot on with their leaks. You'll know them from leaking the PlayStation Plus, like Essential and Extra and Premium games every month. They're always spot on. And they are claiming that Starfield is headed for an April release on PlayStation 5. So we're in March already, so next month, not long to wait at all. I know a lot of you will be excited about this. I was really disappointed with Starfield. Hopefully they make some updates and optimizations, because for me, there was so many loading screens in the game, it just broke immersion. And I think this is the game which broke Xbox in terms of, if this was a commercial success, no way I think they would have went the full third-party route they did. I think they were expecting this to be like another Skyrim for them, and it just didn't land like that. Now, there's some good news if you're looking forward to this on PlayStation, as Deal Labs are reporting that it will have a lower price tag on PlayStation 5. So when this launched on Xbox way back in 2023, I can't believe it was that long ago. Geez, time flies. It was a full price £70 game, or like $70, and it's going to launch here in the UK for $44.99, which I think is pretty reasonable. That's a good price for a new game, and that works out roughly around about $50 if you're in the US. And pre-orders are supposed to be opening sometime this month in March, and we'll have the PS5 version revealed alongside the game's 2.0 update. Oh, I'm really excited to see what the update is. Hopefully that fixes all these loading screens and the whole immersion breaking gameplay loop that you encounter with constant loading screens. It's so annoying. This game could be way better than it is. So are you picking up Starfield on PlayStation 5 at this reduced price? Is it something that interests you? I think a lot of you will be into this and would enjoy it. I think I would enjoy it more as well if I gave it more time and they got rid of all these loading screens, especially the SSDs in these new consoles are so fast. We surely do not need the loading screens which we have. So fingers crossed they fix that. And that is another week in the Gaming Coffee Club. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what stories caught your eye down below in the comments. I read and respond to all of them. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe. Just click the button under this video and head over to the Gaming Coffee Club YouTube channel. Also, a lot of cool stuff will be living over there. I'll leave that link down below in the pinned comment. and I'll see you next week for more gaming news. So until then, happy gaming.